Hello and welcome to the Connected Church Live. This is Nachi Lazarus. I thank you for joining me today. Today I want to talk to you about the social media audience behavior. So I want to specifically talk about the different types of audience, and more importantly, I want to show you the evolution of a new type of audience. Now, why should you be concerned about social media audience? See, as a communicator in a church or a ministry, it's important for you to understand what is happening with your audience, because if the audience preference is changing, if the audience behavior is changing, and if you are not fully aware of it, what will happen is you will go on communicating the way you want to, but you will not be connecting with the audience, and it might be irrelevant to them. So it's very important for churches and ministries to understand what is going on with the audience. Technology, social media, mobile apps, smartphones, they are all changing the way people relate to communication, right? The way they consume content, the way they give feedback, everything is changing. So it's important for you to understand that. But today I just want to focus on this new type of audience, right? So there is an evolution going on. There is a new type of audience being evolved. But first let's look at the audience that we're all familiar with, right? There are 5 types of audience, out of which 4 types of audience are already familiar to us, and the 5th is what I'm going to focus on. But the first type we are all familiar with is the face-to-face audience, right? Every church and ministry, very familiar. This is how it all started, even from the early church, the first church, after Jesus gave the job of spreading the gospel to the disciples. They all started with face-to-face audience, right? Even Jesus had face-to-face audience. People who sit in your church, people who come for the event, people in the small group, the interaction that you have one-on-one. This is the face-to-face audience. We are all very comfortable with this type. We all know much about how they behave and so on and so forth. The second is the on-demand audience. Now this type of audience developed a little bit recently, just a few decades ago, when people started consuming content on demand, not just face-to-face, not inside the church, but whenever they want to. So this is using tapes and CDs, and people started listening to messages, maybe even books come under this type of audience. So the on-demand audience, they take the church's content, the ministry's content, and they start reading about it, understanding it, listening to it, watching it whenever they want to. So these type of audience are called the on-demand audience. Even these audience we understand a little bit. The third type is the broadcast audience. This is the audience that watch your TV program, your radio program. So these are people who tune in at a particular time to follow what you're saying. We are also very well aware of these type of audience, and they consume content whenever you broadcast them, right? You tell them, this is my time, my radio show time, and everybody tunes in and they listen to what you are saying. So that is the broadcast audience. And then there came the online audience. About 10-15 years ago, people started using websites and internet and to make donations, and this is the online audience. Most of us understand this. Some of us understand it a little bit lesser than others, but that's fine. But most of us get what it is. These are the type of audience who will donate online, who will use your website to get your information, people who are comfortable with internet and connectivity. But I'm going to talk to you about the next stage of evolution of these audience. Right? The next level of audience are the ones that are right now there, and I call them the connected audience. Now the connected audience are one step more evolved than the online audience, because the online audience only get online when they want to. See, for example, if they want to come to your website to give a donation, they open your church website and they do it. Or if you put on a video, they will go and they will watch the video when they want to. So internet is an option. But for the new type of audience that I'm talking about, internet is not an additional facility. The connectivity is part of their life. That's why I call them the connected audience. They are always connected, right? They behave very differently. They are the predominant type of audience on social media. The people who consume content using social media, what you put out on social media, whether it is live videos or whether it is recorded videos or it is images or Instagram posts or blogs or whatever you put out, the type of people that consume that are the ones I call as the connected audience. So the overall church audience are actually evolving and moving into this fifth space called the connected audience space, right? Irrespective of the age, irrespective of their location, irrespective of their education or anything else, people are starting to evolve and become the connected audience, because the evolution of internet and social media and technology and gadgets is making them into a connected audience. Connectivity is becoming part of who these people are and how they consume content. This is something every church, every ministry, and every communicator needs to be very well aware of, because when you communicate, you need to know these guys and how they behave, so that you can plan your communication accordingly. You can structure the way your ministry functions and communicates according to how they behave. Okay, we are going to talk about them in detail even in the next episode, but I just want to also quickly point out something that is happening to the composition of these 5 types of audience, right? Look at this. When we started out, we had the huge chunk of the audience was face-to-face audience, right? As a church. That's where we started out. And then the on-demand audience evolved, and it occupied a little bit of space. And then you had the broadcast audience. Once the TV technology came up, some people started watching on TV, but still the face-to-face audience was very important, and they occupied a huge chunk. That's why a lot of importance given to church buildings and face-to-face meetings and things like that. And then the online audience came, and then the connected audience was maybe a little bit, not a big chunk, but a small portion, right? But then I want you to notice what's happening right now, right? The proportion is starting to change. You know what will happen in the days to come, even now it's starting to happen, is the face-to-face audience, the proportion is starting to shrink. See, I'm not against face-to-face. Please don't get me wrong. I think face-to-face meetings are very important, and for any ministry, having a face-to-face ministry is so important for a church, and that's not going to go away. It will always be there. In fact, it will become much more important. The more that technology evolves, people will want to have more face-to-face interaction, and that's going to become important. But what I'm saying is, practically speaking, for people to spend face-to-face time is becoming a challenge. People are traveling, people have multiple jobs, they are busy, they are in different countries, they move around a lot. So just coming to church or coming to a small group meeting or having that face-to-face interaction is becoming a strain. It's becoming much more difficult to do. That is just the way things are evolving in the world, right? And of course we will use technology to replace some of it, but just want to point you out to what is happening in the market. We need to understand what is going on with the communication systems. And the on-demand audience will continue to be there. People will still buy CDs, maybe not CDs, but MP3, MP4. They will probably listen to the messages on demand. They will read books. They'll continue to read books. So those things will continue to be there in some portion. Broadcast audience will continue to be there. TV continues to be a big medium, but maybe not for a long time. There will be some evolution happening. There will be a merger in a big way between the internet and TV. It's already happening with smart TVs, but it will continue to merge, and that space will continue to evolve. But we will still have a broadcast audience. And then the online audience is definitely going to grow, because the website, mobile app usage, that will continue to grow. But this is what is going to happen. The biggest chunk is going to be occupied by this connected audience in the days to come. This is a trend, my friend, we cannot ignore, right? Every church and ministry has to understand that this connected audience is going to occupy the biggest chunk of the people you're going to talk to. Why? Because the internet will continue to grow. Right? The companies like Facebook and Google, all the big guys are very keen, even Microsoft, they're all very keen to get the world connected. Why? Because their revenue model is dependent on everybody being on the internet. So they will make sure that as many people in the world are getting on the internet as much as possible. So once that happens, your doors of opportunity starts opening, right? Your face-to-face, or maybe you'll have for example, let's say you're a church with 1,000 members in your church, right? When you do a live service, when you put your teaching series on the internet or on social media, you're not only ministering to those 1,000 people because they're also on social media, but it opens the doors for you to minister to hundreds of thousands of people or even millions. I don't know, because everybody's on the internet. So imagine if you take the total pool of your audience and kind of do a segregation like I have done here, you will see your biggest chunk of audience is going to be the connected audience, right? So it's time for you to start thinking about this change, this evolution. So when this happens, when the world is completely connected, one of the reports says by 2025, 90% of the world will be connected, will have connectivity, right? This is a report from the World Economic Forum. So it's not far away. It's happening. It's going to happen now, very soon. 2025 is just a few years down the line. So when that happens, is your ministry ready? Is your church ready to take this, use this opportunity to bless people, to minister to people, and to communicate to people whatever God wants you to communicate? This is a question for you to think about. We will continue to talk about the connected audience in our coming episodes. In fact, the next episode, I'm going to talk about the characteristics of the connected audience. So stay connected. Keep watching us live. Thank you for joining me today. I hope it was useful. If you find this useful, please share it with your friends and family on your network. Please leave your questions. If you have any questions about social media audience or anything else, just leave it in the comment section below and I will make sure we answer them. Right? Thank you so much. Subscribe to our channels. Follow us wherever you're watching this. Make sure you subscribe so that you will get notified whenever we have a video coming up. Right? We will have very useful videos for your church ministry and social media in the days to come, and I look forward to talking to you about that. Once again, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. Nachi Lazarus here on the Connected Church Live. Thank you. Have a good day. God bless you. Bye-bye.